Probably the single most important note in a chord is the third. We talked about the third and the seventh and the tritones, but the third tells us whether the chord's major or minor. Now, the blues is a weird animal in the sense that, if we learned our first A7 chord and we learned our first scale to use in a blues, our main scale as a guitar player is that pentatonic, minor pentatonic. So A minor pentatonic has a C in it, but A7 has a C sharp in it. So if we sit on that C note, it's not such a great note. So what people will do, and especially singers, and something that makes it sound really bluesy, is we have to address that. It's a great kind of early, actually has its roots in Africa, that sort of really sad quality that flat third can give us. But if we sit on it, it's going to sound, well, terrible. So what we want to do as a lead player is bend it a little bit. So what we're going to do is allude to our natural third, which would be C sharp. Now, since we're talking about rhythm guitar, we can really utilize the same thing. Now, the C sharp, if we fret it, it makes the chord sound very bright. So if I'm doing, but if I add in a bit of the flat third, it makes the chord much more interesting, right? Because we're getting a little bit of that. Really common thing in the blues. So I'm often going to play the flat third and the natural third. Now, if I'm going to do a little bit more fill stuff, say lay in there, I'm going to bend it a hair, right? And just get that C, you're alluding to the C sharp. Now, it's a funny little interesting sort of side note. In Eric Clapton's autobiography, he doesn't talk about the guitar all that much, except there's one chapter where he talks about vibrato, which is huge, and the third, getting comfortable with really kind of getting the ins and outs of the third. I'm going to go deep into this in a few spots in the studies section, especially this Muddy Waters style blues that I kept taking a takeoff on Champagne and Reefer by Muddy Waters. Without that working or tweaking of the third where it sits between the flat third and the natural third, it wouldn't work. It's the beauty of a lot of these blues things. I mentioned Lightnin' Hopkins before. Master of that. He almost never hits a natural third. He always alludes to it, and it gets such that great melancholy sound. Someone like B.B. King will hit that natural third a little more strongly, and it gives you that sweeter major blues sound as opposed to a bit more of that delta, more sadder sound. So as a rhythm guitar player, we really need to be aware of how we approach that third. Are we nailing it, or are we alluding to it, or are we kind of sliding up into it to kind of get a mix of the two? So we can see it a lot in the studies section, but as a lead player, the rhythm player, as a singer, the third is so key in getting a really legitimate blues sound.